Imagine this, a rainbow of colors flooding into the room, spots of colored light speckling your surroundings. You look up and you realize that it's a glass-blowing cup sitting in the windowsill that's making these lights. As light pours into the room, it is immersed with wonderful colors that are swirled inside this cup. This whimsical effect is made possible by glassblowing. The art of glassblowing is a glass shaping technique that has been around for thousands of years. According to the American Scientific Glassblower Society, the earliest record of glassblowing was actually in Greece in the 2nd century AD. Even though the art of glassblowing started so long ago, it hasn't changed much in method over the years. The process of glassblowing involves heating up glass, blowing air into it through a pipe in order to shape all types of different objects. Glassblowing is a glassmaking technique that had its original rise in the early ADs. The process of glassmaking itself dates all the way back to 1500 BC. The Egyptians learned that if they combined sand with other materials and heated it up, they were left with a molten glass. They originally used this newly made glass as a sort of glaze for their tiles, but eventually the glassmaking technique spread throughout the world, and according to the research of the DMG School Project, they were finding glass-blown bottles that dated back to the 2nd millennium, that was the Roman Empire. This is also where history dates the first large glass workshops were established. The Roman Empire started the spread of the glassblowing through this. Once the technique was spread thoroughly, glass bottles and other glass-blown objects became very popular and were seen everywhere. However, even though the glass-blown objects had become commonplace, the process and technique of glassblowing was actually a closely guarded secret. The government kept the technique of glassblowing a sacred knowledge all the way through the Middle Ages. Luckily for us today, though, it's no longer a secret, and anyone around the world can be taught the technique. Websites like Wonderopolis, How It's Made, and Discovery are great resources to learn the basics of glassblowing, and these sources are also freely available to the public, so anyone with the internet can be taught how to make glass-blown objects. A documentary produced by Discovery describes the entire process of how a reamer is made from glassblowing. The process of glassblowing starts with a substance called silica, which is mixed with stabilizers and then thrown into an oven to melt everything together. Once the mixture is transformed into liquid glass state, a blowpipe is submerged into the mixture so that a clump is attached to one end of the pipe. At this point is when the color is added. The piece is rolled around in a molten glass that is colored with glass powder, and then it's returned to the furnace to combine the glass and the color together. The glass is then formed into a cylindrical starting shape to prepare for the blowing of air through the pipe, and then the air is blown into the pipe and the glass is shaped to the desired shape and length. And then once it is completely made, the pipe is scored closest to where the pipe matches the glass, and then it is dropped with cold water, and then cold air is also brushed against it to ensure a clean break off the pipe. More designs can be added by attaching a maneuvering rod to the opposite side of the piece and adding more molten glass, and then using tools to create designs in the work. Glassblowing has thrived throughout the ages, and it's still at the most popular today as it was when it was first invented. Although glassblowing was invented in the early ADs, the technique has remained completely unchanged throughout the years. The history of glassblowing shows that change isn't always necessary for success, and remaining unchanged can yield great results in the end.